Oh, wow. So many people already. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining today. Hi, Iman. I think we'll just give it a few minutes for everyone to start to trickle in. But for those who don't know me, my name is Katherine. Nice to meet all of you. Where are you guys from? Oh, from Argentina, Houston, Portland. I just went to Los Angeles. We got Brooklyn. Wow, all over the place. So many people. Thank you all so much for joining. This is awesome. We've got Atlanta, Vancouver, Chile. Hi, Sophia. Nice to meet you as well. Wow, this is crazy. I'm like overwhelmed. Jerusalem. Oh, my buddy Jamal. Hi, Jamal. Thanks for joining. Margarita, you're welcome. Thank you for joining. Yeah, so many people. Thank you all so much for joining. Hope you have a good chat today. And if you have any questions throughout the chat, feel free to put them in the chat box, and I'll try my best to get through them throughout the next hour or so. Hi, Jamie, joining from Edmonton. Nice to meet you. Hope you're staying safe as well. My friend Andrew, thanks for joining. Daniel, my pleasure. Happy to speak through my experiences. But yeah, I think we'll get started in just a few minutes. Still some people trickling in. Before I start, I have a question. Yeah, so the class this class is like, this webinar is free, but there are different like payment plans you can get on for the Sneaker Essentials program. You can direct all your questions to them after the fact. Yeah, we've got so many people from all over the world. Thank you so much for joining. You can add questions into the chat. There's also questions. There's also like a Q&A section, so feel free to put some questions in there as well. But I think we'll get started since we've got a whole bunch of people in here. So again, thank you guys so much for joining. So title of the webinar is Turning Your Passions into Paychecks. So I'm going to give you guys as many tips as I can that have been really helpful for me when it comes to getting a job. Because I know that one of the most like stressful things for me after I graduated university was finding a job, because I had like very little work experience, and I know we've all been there. Don't worry, Jamie, I can't hear your microphone, so you're all good. But I know we've all been there when you look at a job application and it like requests like 5 years of experience for an entry-level position. So then we're always asking ourselves, okay, well, if I just graduated university or college or whatever, how am I supposed to get all these years of experience? So how am I able to get this job? So I'll definitely speak through my experience and the way that I was able to get a job. So yeah, I'm gonna touch on my work experience, some of the cool brands and sneaker brands that I've gotten to work with over the past few years. I'm going to go through all your different questions throughout, including where I went to university, which I saw is just a question right now. And for your time, I'm going to be doing a little giveaway at the end for some Foot Locker gift cards. So make sure that you guys stick around to the end so you can find out how to win those. But thank you guys again for joining. Really appreciate your time. So now I'll get right into it. So a little bit about me. My name is Katherine Allen. I'm 26 years old. I am from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And I always grew up loving sneakers. I think part of that was because like growing up, every September before school, my dad would take us to Foot Locker or Champs, and they always had this like buy one, get one deal. So I'd always get like 2 new shoes for every school year. And I remember I always had like the freshest kicks, and people would always compliment me. So I just kind of like loved that was my thing. I also really love basketball growing up and still do. And basketball and sneaker culture are just like so intertwined. So kind of just like made sense that I love sneakers and love basketball culture. Growing up, I went to an all-girls private school. So as you can imagine, sneaker culture wasn't like very prevalent there. So me with my like cool sneakers, I definitely like stood out. But I also just like felt very like different from my peers. I remember one time I was wearing like Air Force Ones, not even black ones, like just all white, high top Air Force Ones to recess. And one of my classmates told me that I looked ghetto. So, you know, just because of the people I was around and my surroundings, I definitely like kind of kept my love for sneakers a little bit closeted growing up. So just like didn't fit in with the people that I knew at the time. But that said, as I grew up and I got more like comfortable with myself and realized the things that I'm most passionate about, I definitely started to pursue sneakers a little bit more. And also growing up, I didn't really know about the different like career paths that you can have in sneakers. So this was definitely one of the biggest takeaways that I got from the Yellowbrick Sneaker Essentials program. Teaches you all about the industry, all about different career paths. And quite frankly, if you don't know that jobs exist, you can't get them and you can't apply for them. So one of the first steps is just like understanding the landscape of so that you can understand the different jobs within it. Francis, that's so lame of them. It's okay. I mean, honestly, everyone has like, when people are younger, like sometimes you might make comments that are a little insensitive. And like at the time, I didn't even like think of it in terms of like a race thing or anything like that. But looking back, I can realize that, you know, you're a product of your surroundings, right? So it's okay. I comfortably and confidently wear my Air Force Ones now. Whether they're perceived as ghetto or not. So yeah, I'll talk a little bit about my professional life. Ignorance is bliss, facts, Mario. But I'll tell you a little bit about the job that I have now and how I got here. So I'm a strategic planner at MKTG Canada, which is a sports marketing, sponsorship consulting, and events agency. It's based in Toronto. They have offices all around the world, and they're part of the Denso Aegis network. So it's a massive network, and there's like many opportunities within it. Jamie, I see a comment from Jamie, their comment made you stronger and have made you who you are today. I agree. And I definitely have a few stories that I'll get to today that I definitely think speak to that and help like shape who I am today. So what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Yeah, so I'm a strategic planner on the strategy team for just over a year. When I started a year ago, I was an associate strategic planner. Before that, I was on the events team as a live coordinator. And then for about a year and a half. And then prior to starting at this company, I was working at another very prominent sports marketing agency as an intern. So I'll speak a bit about that job process and how those all came to be. But I'll start in 2016 when I graduated from university. So I was in the Media Information and Technoculture program at Western University in London, Ontario, which is essentially a media studies program. It's really hard, and it's really rooted in like teaching you to be a strategic thinker and a very critical thinker, all of which I think have helped me to this day. But with such like a broad program, like I had no idea what kind of career I wanted to go down. But I knew that a lot of people who graduated from my program, Heather just said I'm completing my 4th year in MIT at Western. Enjoy it. It's a really, 4th year gets a little bit easier if I remember, but it was a really, really great program. I'm really thankful I took it. So if you have any questions after the fact about the program, feel free to reach out to me. Where was I? So I applied to a couple like advertising agencies and marketing agencies for internships and like entry-level positions, because I knew that a lot of people who do my program go into marketing, but I was not very successful with my job applications. And I started to get really, really frustrated and lose motivation because I thought I had done everything I could to like put my best foot forward, start to develop work experience before actually like getting a job. But this all changed after I met for coffee with someone who gave me a very simple but helpful tip. And that bit of advice honestly changed everything for me. So this brings us to landing and nailing the interview. So I'm going to go into 2 parts. First, what I did to get work experience, and then second, how you can land and nail your interviews. Just going to do a quick peek at the Q&A. What company do I work with? I work at MKTG Canada, sports marketing and sponsorship consulting agency. That's where I work right now. And I'll continue to go through these questions throughout, but just want to make sure that I get through some of the things that I think will be most helpful for you guys. So I'll start with some of the things that I did to get experience before I got into university, or while I was in university. So first off, I reached out to a local, or I think I met him somewhere, I don't know, a guy who owned a sneaker store near my university. And I reached out to him and asked him if I could help him out with social media. So he said, of course. I started running his social media accounts, growing his following, running some contests, and like I devoted so many hours to that over a number of months. I really enjoyed it. And it gave me a line on my resume. So I really liked doing that. He ended up screwing me over and never paid me. So life lesson, like people will take advantage of you if you are, like people will take advantage of people who are super keen and like willing to do work. So just make sure that you're looking out for your best interests and get agreements in writing before you jump into them. But it's cool because it gave me a line on my resume. And I also did social media for like a promotions and events company in London. So the line on my resume was like digital marketing consultant, and I could list a couple of the clients. So if you live in a small town or you're like in a university town, there's so many like small businesses who can use your help. And I'm sure like all of you joining, all 330 of you, thank you again for joining. I'm sure all of you like are very digitally savvy and can offer advice and help to some small businesses. So that's a really, really great way to gain work experience. I second getting any and all agreements in writing. Agreed, Norberto. I wish I did, but now I know. So lessons learned. And then other things that I did to gain work experience is I started being a brand ambassador. So if you don't know what a brand ambassador is, you're basically the face of a brand to the public at experiential marketing activations. If you don't know what experiential marketing activations are, they're generally consumer-facing, promotionally driven like events. So it's a way for brands to connect with people, like consumers on a personal level. So I was the person in like liquor stores offering samples, or at a music festival handing out promo items. And it was super laborious, like really long hours, and like you're always standing on your feet. But it really, really gave me a lot of helpful work experience for my first, for the first internship that I got. And I was able to articulate the areas that I could add value. So things like delivering key messages, maintaining high levels of professionalism and customer service, responding to customer inquiries, and problem solving on the spot. These are all things that you need to learn in marketing, and you learn on the job as a brand ambassador. So definitely suggest looking into that. Maybe not now, but when this whole COVID situation is over, because it is a really, really great opportunity. And I was able to list like all these dozens of like some of the world's biggest brands that I work with just from being a brand ambassador. So places you can start, there are like staffing agencies in every city. And there's also like Facebook groups where people will put out open asks to people. So for example, like brand ambassadors of Toronto, brand ambassadors of New York, there's like so many different opportunities. So definitely make sure that, you know, as long as you look presentable and you can like deliver key messaging and take instructions, you'll get hired. And that was like, it was really scary for me at first because like, I didn't like talking to people. Like it was like hard for me to not be so shy. But this is one of the things that really helped me like get out of my comfort zone, because you like, if you're talking to strangers on the street, you like have to be able to speak to them. So it like forces you to get more comfortable. So being a brand ambassador, definitely something I recommend. So definitely I'll take a quick little pause, see if there's any questions I can answer here. You can also learn those lessons working in retail to a certain degree. Agree. So I've never worked in retail. I wish I have, because there's so many things that I can learn. Agree with you on that. I think you can learn a lot of those things also in retail. In order to become a brand ambassador, did you apply with a sneaker company or you went to a retail store? So to be a brand ambassador, I had worked at for a marketing agency, and the way the ecosystem usually works is marketing agencies will have either hire brand ambassadors directly, or they'll have staffing agencies who do the hiring for them. And a lot of those staffing agencies use Facebook groups to source talent. So those Facebook groups that I mentioned, like Brand Ambassadors of Toronto, Brand Ambassadors of New York, those are really, really great ways to get started. You can also like look up on like Kijiji or Craigslist. There's like so many opportunities. Shannon says, you should be grateful you've never worked in retail. Maybe, because I've heard many horror stories, but I think that especially because like I eventually want to work in sneakers, like it would be really helpful for me to have a better understanding of retail. Although Sneaker Essentials program does have a course that speaks about retail. So an area that I was able to learn a bit about, but I definitely want to learn more about. Take another quick questions. What was your major in high school? Didn't have a major in high school. We just, the way that my school was structured, we just kind of took everything. But my program in school was, I also didn't pick a major. I realized after the fact, this is my mistake, that I could have probably majored in writing because I had so many writing courses, but that's okay. Would I have to go back to school and finish my degree to land in the sneaker industry? I have to go back to school and finish my degree to land in the sneaker industry. I don't think so. I think it's helpful to have a degree because a lot of brands kind of have a degree as a prerequisite, but just as I'm about to get into and how like I didn't have a lot of work experience, if you also don't have a degree, like you are your best asset. And if you can like convince the employer or the recruiter that you are able to add value, then I don't know that the degree will be the most important thing. Okay, so I spoke about some of the things I did to gain experience. Now I'm going to speak a little bit about the lesson that honestly changed everything for me. And I think that I don't think I would be here if this like interview didn't go as well as it did. We're in 2016. I couldn't get a job, so I just continued to do like brand ambassador work to make money and gain experience. Being a brand ambassador, you actually make a lot of money. They pay really well. It's like usually like 18 to 25 an hour. So it was really, really great. Jessica said it was a really great learning experience. And as I mentioned, it's a really great thing to like just to earn money and gain some good experience because it pays well. So I was being a brand ambassador at the Toronto Women's Show, and the booth next to ours was a man who had a bee company. It was called Honeybee, I think. And we were there for the whole weekend. So we started chatting, eventually started talking about basketball. And he mentioned that I reminded him of someone that he knew that worked at the NBA. And then he was like, you know what, like, I love your energy. I'd love to connect you guys. So he connected us via email. We went for a coffee. I remember I was so scared because, as I mentioned, it was like hard for me to talk to people at first because I was like very shy. Still am, but do my best to fake it till I make it. But yeah, I remember I was so scared, and I obviously wasn't gonna like ask her for a job. All I wanted to do was like pick her brain and ask her for some tips because I had an interview coming up at a really prestigious sports marketing agency. So I came prepared with questions, and the most helpful thing she said to me is so simple. She said, remember to sell yourself, not your experience or the hire that they want you to be. Just be you and let who you are as a person shine through, because that's what's going to get you hired. So then I realized, yeah, I don't have a lot of experience, and I'm sure there are other applicants for these jobs who have more experience than I do, but like my personality, my passion, how hard I'm going to work, like those are the things that are going to set you apart. So I needed to find a way to focus in on that. So I had my interview coming up, and I knew that it was my responsibility to show them like how badly I wanted this internship, and that I would work hard and able to prove it to them. So a lot of the time when you apply to an agency, they'll give you a case study. And I think that they had asked me to present a concept, like an event activation concept. And I came with three concepts that I had fully built out, the budget, potential vendors, like feasibility. I went all out with this presentation. They were printed at Kinko's. I had like hot off the press, went into my interview, and I knew that like I could impress them right off the bat just from the effort I put into my case study. And part of the reason why that went so well is because I had spoken to someone who worked at the company, and I asked them for any tips, anything that they know that the team likes. And he said, you know, they love when people are presenting full on ideas. So not just like in piecemeal, but how it would come to be from start to finish. So I took that to heart, and I knew that I had to, like, if I'm gonna really impress these people, I need to make sure that I am delivering well thought out ideas. So rather than just like the one concept they requested, I made 3 full on ideas and gave an amazing presentation. So yeah, if lesson there, like if you're going to apply anywhere, just reach out to people and see if there's anyone who can give you any sort of advice, because if you know what the team is looking for, it's very easy to articulate where you'll be able to add value. So always reach out. And then eventually I got an offer, and I remember when I started, I remember on my first day, when I was introducing myself, people were like, "Oh, were you the person who had like the insane presentation?" And they said that it got like passed around the office. So, you know, I knew that I had like made an impression right from the get-go, and I knew that, you know, anytime moving forward, if I had to do a presentation, that I was going to make sure that I put in like 200% effort, just so they could see that where my experience lacks, my effort will compensate for. That was the best tip you ever gave me. Thank you. Hope that was helpful. Hope I can give you some more. You speak amazing. Thank you so much. I'm going to take a pause quickly, look at the questions. How did you know what degree you wanted after high school, going into college for the career you wanted to be in? So I didn't know what career I wanted to be in. Originally, I thought I wanted to work in music, and I think I'm still like interested in music, love music, but I really liked the media information technoculture program, because it teaches you about culture and technology and information and the way that like we as consumers and humans interact with one another. So that was something that I figured was very like relevant to many industries. So that's why I decided to take that program. Also, I had like visited the university, talked to people from the program, loved the school, and then like eventually ended up really liking the program. So I think that when you do more research, you're able to like find out courses that might be a best fit for you. Which software do you use to present? Usually build it in PowerPoint. I know that there's like Prezi and stuff like that, but I find it's very difficult to use. I know it's supposed to be simpler, but I don't really use that. I just use PowerPoint. Would you agree that it's more about who you know rather than what you know? Great question. Who you know is definitely important, and I'll speak in a little bit about like some of the connections that I've made and how much of a game changer it's been for me. But I remember when I was like first applying for jobs, I was so frustrated because I had that exact thought. I'm like, it's about who you know. I'm sure the people who are getting hired like don't know anyone, but you know, I didn't know, know a bunch of people, and like that's how they're able to get in. And you know, that is the way of the world, but you can do everything that you can to combat that. That's what I did. Like I didn't know anyone applying for these jobs, and I managed to get them. So it's all about the effort you put in, I think, but that definitely plays a factor. Can you please answer my question? I'll try to get to as many questions as I can. Thank you so much for sending them, and appreciate your patience. Do employees check writing skills in interviews and applications? Is that a big factor, especially if English is not your first language? Definitely check for like, so I've done a little bit of hiring, and like, which I'll get into a little bit later, but they definitely will, like, at least for me, like I'll check writing skills and spelling and grammar, all that kind of stuff. If you've already communicated that English is not your first language, I would definitely recommend you like put that up front or integrate it somewhere in your cover letter, just so that they're aware, because like, I don't know, someone like me might be very understanding if English isn't your first language, but it all depends on who's doing the hiring. Okay, so spoke about some of the lessons that I learned that helped me get that internship. If you're taking notes, focus on doing an amazing case study that blows their ass out of the water. Focus on selling yourself as a person and like the value you can bring, rather than the experience, because quite frankly, like if you don't have that much experience, you don't have that much to talk to, and I think that's why some of my other interviews didn't go so well. And also another really helpful interview tip is it's okay to take a second to like pause and repeat the question and give yourself a second to respond, because it's so like, I've had so many like bad interviews, and a lot of them are because I just word vomited the first thing that came to mind, because I didn't want to seem like I was unprepared and I was nervous. But it's okay to like take a second, repeat the question, or add some filler like, it's a great question, and then like give your answer. It's better to give a more thoughtful answer than just spitting out something that doesn't make sense. So yeah, I interned at that agency. I didn't get an offer to come back, so I was determined to get hired at a competing agency. I had just seen that the company I work at now won Agency of the Year. So, and I also said saw that they had Adidas as a client, and it just kind of like clicked for me. I was like, this is my way into working with sneaker brands through agency world. So I needed this job, and just like I put in 200% effort with my interview process for the other company, I had even more fuel to want to get this job. So same as the last one, I got a case study, and I used everything that I learned at this first agency to help deliver an amazing presentation. And I think the job listing asked for like 2 to 3 years experience. And obviously I had experience as a brand ambassador, but I didn't have 2 to 3 years of work experience. So I needed my presentation to like make up for the areas that I lacked experience. So again, I worked really hard. I think they asked for 2 to 3 examples, and I came out with 5. I came out with 5 examples that I had fully blown out. Presentation deck was amazing. I worked so hard on it. And I remember in my presentation, our VP had said to me, like, your presentation is really good, and like, I think you just set the bar really high. I think that we need to lift the bar when it comes to case studies and interviews. You say lol overachiever, Kaylon, maybe? I don't think so. I think I just did what I had to do to get hired. So worked for me. And regarding the conversation, I just let my passion shine through. So I knew that I didn't have like tons of experience, as I mentioned and keep saying, but I was very focused on communicating like where I could add value, where I find inspiration, what I'm passionate about. And then the conversation just naturally evolved because of like all the organic things we could talk about rather than just like a rigid interview. And yeah, overall, I walked out very confident, and I thought I did really, really well. So I knew that if I got the job or didn't, that I did all that I could. A week later, I got a call saying that I didn't get the job. Plot twist. And I was heartbroken. I was like, I literally did everything that I could, and I did not get the job. So I was heartbroken. And he called me and said, you know, we think we really see your potential, but you know, right now we're just at such a busy time that we just need to get like right down to the really need to get right down to it, and we won't have the time to like really like bring you up to speed on the industry and stuff. And at the time I was like, what, like I'm a quick learner, I promise, like I can do it. Obviously I say it to them, but looking back now, like I totally get that, like we were in such a busy time. But yeah, I said, you know, like, I appreciate the call, because a lot of places will reject you and not give you like the thoughtfulness of a call. I mean, I've gotten a rejection email one time that was addressed to Jessica. My name's Katherine. So yeah, so that was really, I appreciated that. And I told them like, thank you so much. Like if there's any opportunities that come up, please let me know, because I really want to work for MKTG. So I gave up for a little while. I took like a few weeks off from applying for jobs. And then 2 weeks later, I was working on a cover letter, actually for a job at Uber. And literally, as I was working on, I hadn't worked on any cover letters or anything for like a couple weeks. And then as I was like typing up my cover letter, he gave me a call and said they wanted to offer me a job. So he said, you know, we're really, really busy. We could really use the extra help right now. So I'd like to offer you a 6-month contract. So they definitely wanted to like test the waters with me, but I really, really appreciated that they gave me the opportunity. So a few weeks later, I started as a coordinator on the events team. I'm gonna take a quick pause and answer some questions. What is a case study? Okay, so a case study, basically a company will give you like a false scenario or problem. I saw someone answered it, but basically they'll give you a scenario that you have to research and answer. So this thing was like, there's a hockey event going on. can you come up with some, this is dumbing it down in a nutshell, hockey event coming on, can you come up with some activation ideas for a hockey sponsor, for example. So then you can come up with a potential scenario. Basically test like the type of work that you would be doing. Looking at some questions. Rejection can be the greatest motivator. Definitely can. It definitely motivated me in that instance. How often or have you ever been intimidated by your male counterpart in the industry or discriminated against based on your skin or sex? Great question. I've definitely been intimidated. So, and this was like probably the biggest challenge for me, especially starting as a coordinator at this company. So, and it was like really hard to like find my voice at this time. But so I was the youngest person in the office. I was on a 6-month contract. I had, it's intimidating working in sports when as a female, and if you work in sports, you know what I mean. The office also like at the time like was very diverse. So all those things like made me feel not necessarily inferior, but I just like did not have the confidence that I have now. So to your question, I have definitely felt intimidated before, but I used it to help. Like eventually, I realized it like sets me apart, and I was able to eventually find my voice. Whew. How important is culture to you in joining an organization? Culture is absolutely important. Like the organization I work at, we have such a fun, casual culture. And like, quite frankly, I couldn't imagine working somewhere where I couldn't wear sneakers every day. So culture is super important. And like, I run our social media accounts. And one of the things that I try to do is like really show off our culture. Because like me personally, I'd rather apply to a place that has a really fun and relaxed culture than otherwise. So I try to let that come across. How do you become a brand ambassador? I think I addressed that, but if you have any more questions, you can send me a message after the fact. What were some of the key points you covered in your case studies? So one of the biggest things for me are cultural insights, and I'll get to this a little later as well, but just make sure that everything you're doing is well researched and makes sense. If the case study articulates like a brand objective, you need to make sure that all of your ideas ladder up to those objectives. So that's what you need to make sure come across in your presentation, whether it's a case study or presentations that I do to this day. Like laddering up to your objectives is absolutely essential. Get a couple more questions. Social media following a big factor for getting a job? I don't think so, but you definitely want to like be presentable on social. Because if you think about it, if recruiters looking at your page, like, are the things on your page, are you proud of them, or would you like be super nervous if you notice that a recruiter saw them? So those are all just things to keep in mind. So yeah, I'll keep rolling off that, talking about like finding my voice in that first year. So I was definitely like really quiet, but I wanted to like show that I could be taken seriously. So it took a while for me to like gain the confidence and realize the value that I could add, because like I knew that I had like value I could add, but I was just like nervous to share it. And it happens, but eventually you get more comfortable. And one of the things that I knew could set me apart was that I knew more about sneakers than anyone else at the company. So we do these like weekly presentations, and I would always, where you could present about anything in the industry, and I would almost always talk about like things going on in the sneaker industry, but I would ensure that I always linked it back to like sponsorship and our other clients. And I think that impressed a lot of people. I always got a lot of compliments, and I always made sure that I wasn't just sharing things for the sake of sharing, but that I'm sharing like insights and value and learnings for our clients. So eventually I kind of like built my confidence off of like the success of those presentations that I would give weekly. So that was really helpful for me. And I knew that we had like Adidas as a client, but I still wasn't on the Adidas account team. So I needed to do everything that I could to like get closer and closer to that account. So, I'd volunteer to like pack up boxes. I'd volunteer my time like on a weekend so that I could help at an event. I basically just did everything I could so that I could get closer and closer to the sneaker accounts at our company. Take a look at some questions. Where can you look for jobs? So there's lots of, I think I had found these jobs on like a sports marketing board, like job board, but there's so many places you can look. There's PeerSite. I know that a lot of sneaker brands, especially in Toronto, use PeerSite. LinkedIn, turn on your LinkedIn job notifications. Like you can like adjust it to like your interests and types of brands and positions you might be interested in. Indeed, I wouldn't say so much Indeed. PeerSite's a really good one though. And Teamwork, John Ademi, thank you. Teamwork is a great one as well. But definitely there's so many different places out there, and I think LinkedIn is a really, really great one. Someone else just said Teamwork as well. So definitely look on Teamwork because that's a great one. Okay, any more questions? What would you do if you want a position but don't qualify for it? E.g., company wants an associate's degree, but you're working towards one. Do you still suggest going for it? Absolutely, because like I mentioned, like you're never going to meet every single thing on the job, and there's no harm in applying. I think there's a rule. It's like 80-20. You're supposed to fulfill like 80% or something like that. I don't know. There's no harm in applying. And if you get the interview and you can sell them on the value that you'll bring, you sell them on how hard you're willing to work, I think you should apply for any job. I don't think that you have to meet the criteria exactly. In making your interview presentation, how did you build on industry-specific knowledge without a huge amount of experience? Great question. So most of my knowledge came from people that have worked at the companies that I was applying for. So that's why it's so important to reach out to people and just ask questions, because if you're not going to know this industry specific knowledge, if you don't have experience, unless you ask somebody. So that's really, really crucial and really, really important. Are you satisfied with where you are right now in your career? If not, where would you like to be, or ideally, what is your end goal? Right now, I am really enjoying working on the strategy team at my company. Maybe I'll speak a bit about how I shifted to strategy, but I really love my team, very thankful for them. I've learned so much from them. And what is ideally my end goal? I think I would like to work at a sneaker brand eventually on the brand side. So yeah, I'll speak a little bit about moving on to strategy. So working at events was cool. I learned so much, and like being in brainstorms now, having the experience of like working in events, bringing them from idea to physically, literally physically, like so many long hours, like physically lifting boxes and stuff, but physically bringing them to life is really super helpful, because now I have like my ideas, like I know what's feasible. So really, really thankful for that experience. But I just wanted an opportunity to be a little bit more critical and analytical. So, and I couldn't really do that in my role at the time. Eventually the strategy team asked me to apply for an opening, and I got the job. And to this day, like it's the best decision I've ever made. Shout out to Matt and Neil, the best. I learned so much from them, and really appreciate everything that they've taught me over the past year. So yeah, also being on strategy, like strategy is really like hard to articulate like exactly what it is, but you get to work on so many projects, you get to work on every single client. So obviously, like for the sake of this, I focus on like our sneaker clients that I've gone to work with, but like we work at a sponsorship agency, so I get to work with all these on behalf of all these sponsors, like Raptor sponsors. Like it's just so cool, and I've gotten so many cool experiences as a result of like working on the strategy team. So thankful for that. And because of like all the accounts that you're exposed to when working at an agency, I definitely recommend exploring agencies, because you get so much experience. You learn how to juggle multiple deadlines. And I think that like having worked on all these clients and having all this experience, I think will ultimately like help me get a job at a sneaker brand if the day comes to that. Because when I think about it, like, I mean, I don't know about any of you guys, but I have been applying, like even when I was like 14, I had applied to a job at Nike and thinking like, maybe they'll take a chance on me. So I've definitely applied many times unsuccessfully over the years to like Nike and Adidas and stuff like that. But one way that you can get into these sneaker brands is through their agencies, because I realize this now that I work at an agency, like sneaker brands and other brands, but sneaker brands like work with so many different agencies. Usually they have like several agencies of record that they work with. So if you can't get a job directly for a brand, do the research, find the agencies that these brands work with, and use that as a route to get to the brand. Like, for example, I don't work at Adidas, at least not yet. And I got to play a huge role in like developing the Adidas Superstar 2020 campaign this year, which is like absolutely surreal. The shoe that I've been wearing like my whole life, it's just crazy to me. And like, that's because I work at an agency. So definitely suggest agencies if you don't know where to go, or you just want some experience, or you want to get access to a sneaker brand. Take a look at some questions. Join late, but by agency, do you mean recruiting agencies? Recruiting agencies if you want to be a brand ambassador. Marketing and sponsorship consulting agencies are what I work at now. Peace, Ryan. Thank you for joining. Mark said, how can an athlete brand himself to attract sponsors? Great question. I think that's I also got this question from Mark on LinkedIn. I don't know if it's the same Mark, but the question that he had sent me before, thank you for everyone who sent me questions in advance. I made sure that I tried to work it in what I'm talking about, but asked a question about how you can, what brands are looking for. So at our agency, I've had the opportunity to work on like sponsorship deals and for athletes and influencers and stuff like that. And the very first thing, so I can speak to a little bit about that, but firstly, an agency needs to articulate the needs of the brand. So like, what is it that they want to deliver through an endorsement? So create a list of criteria of what we're looking for, and we'll create an ideal candidate. And then from there, we'll do a bunch of research and find athletes and find someone who's the best fit. So some of the things that we might look for are like any past experience working with brands. Are they presentable online? Are they involved in any community initiatives? Do they have any hobbies or interests that make them interesting? Do they have a personality? Does anything controversial come up when we type them in on Google? Do they have an engaged following? Ultimately, an endorser becomes a representative of the brand. So it all comes down to like, who can represent your brand well? Who can we feel confident allowing to represent the brand? And ultimately it all comes down to, are they a good fit? So for example, like if we're looking at an athlete and we notice that they're really interested in like healthy eating and cooking, that might work really well for a brand whose CSR focus, corporate social responsibility focus, is around teaching healthy habits to youth. Is there an athlete who posts lots of like scantily clad photos? Might not be the best fit for a brand that is a little bit more conservative. So it all comes down to like brand fit. I think that for athletes, in my opinion, the most important things you can take into consideration are how you present yourself to the public, developing your own brand that is marketable. For example, like a super marketable athlete, Serge Ibaka. He's into fashion and cooking. So there's so many like authentic activation ideas that we can like come up with around that. Well-spoken, does stuff in his community and his like community back home. So that's a great example. But yeah, just find ways to give back to your community, and ultimately you need to create a personal brand for yourself that is interesting. So find a hobby, show off your personality, and just like you would in a job interview, you want to make sure that you are showing off exactly what you can offer. Adita asked a question. That was a great question. Story, great interview, the presentation, great tip. Do you worry in such situations if you give a completely thought out idea in an interview, they could just take your idea and execute it on your own? So I've heard that does happen, because at the end of the day, you can give a great idea and someone can take it. But I mean, if I was in an interview or like interviewing for a position and I give an idea that was so good, they wanted to use it, they would be at a loss to not hire me, quite frankly, because clearly my idea was good enough and well thought out enough that it could be brought to market. So I wouldn't necessarily worry about that. Cameron, any Depop experience? Lol. I made a Depop account. I haven't actually posted anything. I actually started posting some stuff on Poshmark, but I mainly use Grailed. take another quick peek at the Q&A, see if there's anything I can add in here before I move on. After earning the internship, what are some ways to sustain your position there? So I didn't sustain my position there. I didn't get offered a job, but successful interns, for them to get a position after the fact, it all comes down to like the value that you bring. Like, would the company be at a loss if they didn't hire you? Like the interns that we've hired on full time, they're like at our agency, it's because they brought so much value, they worked so hard, and they filled a void. So if they were to leave, there would be a void there. So just make sure that you're adding value and like find a way to add value. Don't just like do a task, get a task, do a task, get a task, do a task. There's no growth there. So make sure that you are putting your best foot forward. Best project you've worked on so far? Thank you for asking that question. The Adidas Superstar 2020 campaign. I'm most proud of that because we did work for Foot Locker, we did work for Champs, and I got to integrate a lot of things that I learned in the Sneaker Essentials program. So like for example, we ended up doing a panel for a group of kids from the Kickback, which is a local charity in Toronto. I can speak a bit about, if we have time, about how I got introduced to them. But basically we did a panel to celebrate 50 years of the Adidas Superstar. We invited out, I think it was 22 kids. We had a panel with a bunch of the people that I've met as a result of this program, and people that I've met through sneakers. Basically, I took the Sneaker Essentials program, and I just got so interested in like putting myself out there, getting to know people in the sneaker community. And that panel was just kind of brought everything together full circle, because I wouldn't have had the idea for a Business of Sneakers panel if I hadn't taken this program. Some of the panelists I wouldn't have known if I didn't take this program. I didn't actually make it to the panel because I got into a car accident on the way there. I'm fine though, but things happen and you just have to move on. But the panel went really well and I was really proud of that. So to answer your question, Adidas Superstar 2020 campaign, that was my most proud program or project I've ever gotten to work on. Also because it's an iconic shoe. So like as a sneakerhead, like it's like the craziest thing ever. Jamal, shout out to the Kickback. Shout out to the Kickback. You guys are amazing. So I guess we'll speak about how I got to know the Kickback. So I actually had just reached out to them on a whim. They're a sneaker charity based in Toronto. They like to build experiences for youth. Shout out to the Kickback Connect on Instagram, give them a follow. But they connect with youth through sneakers, and it's an amazing charity. And I just reached out to them on a whim, and I said, like, here's where I can add value. Like, here's how I can help you. If someone I know about your organization, like, let me know if there's anything I can do. And I was so surprised that they actually like got back to me and like were like, we'd love if you could help us. And one of the things that they said to me when we like met up, he said to me, it really stood out how you articulated how you could add value to us, because a lot of people will say like, let me know how I can help, let me know how I can help, but there's just so many things that they need help for. So so many things that they need help for. So it's best to make sure that you can like actually articulate how you can add value, because that's people want to know the value you can bring. So if you're taking notes, be able to articulate where you can add value, because if you can't articulate it, then people don't know like what you bring to the table. So yeah, I made that connection, got to know them, got to bring them in on one of our projects. So I was really proud of that and happy that we could like give back to the kids that kick back, because they're the best. So you need to be able to articulate what you're able to bring to the table, but also be able to articulate like what you want to do and your goals. Because if you met someone and they said to you like, what can I do to help you? And you can't answer it, it's a missed opportunity. And I've learned that. I've met people who said like, how can I help you? Like, what can I do to help you? And I don't want to seem opportunistic, because I don't want to be opportunistic. I just want to like pick your brain, like learn from you. But sometimes you'll meet people who have the capacity to help you and want to help you. So be able to articulate, like if someone were to ask you the question, like, what can I do to help you? Make sure you can answer that question, because otherwise it's a missed opportunity. Let me look back at the questions, because I know we're running out of time. When you're first starting out, Iman, thank you for the question. When you first started out, how do you identify job titles on the job boards that would be a great segue into the industry? So certain job titles that like entry-level job titles that you'll see are like coordinator, junior coordinator, assistant coordinator. Those are the job titles you should look for because those are the entry-level ones. Jordan liked Adidas because that's what Run DMC was wearing at the time. It was him, the hip hop. Absolutely, Run DMC put the Adidas superstar on the map. Name of the program, Yellowbrick Sneaker Essentials. On Instagram, it's yellowbrick.sneakers. Philip, you're very good at this. Thank you very much. I'm trying. This was fun. I'm going to pop back into the Q&A. There's so many questions here, and I can't get to all of them, but if you send me a message on Instagram at CatherIsland2 or message me on LinkedIn, I'm happy to get to those eventually. But appreciate all the questions so much. Someone asked if there's any like books I'd recommend. And this kind of goes into something I wanted to talk about. So one of the things that my boss has told me are like find resources that you can constantly go to like for inspiration, like people that you just love to like look up to and stuff. So a couple books that I recommend are some classics, Shoe Dog, Phil Knight Memoir. You need to read that book. Whether you like sneakers or not, once you read that book, you're gonna wanna like become an entrepreneur. His story is so inspiring. His mentality is like, it's crazy. You need to read that book. Sneaker Wars, that tells the story of Adi and Rudolph Dassler, the two founding brothers of Adidas, the beef between them and how they founded Adidas and Puma. Also fundamentals. So definitely read that book. Another resource that I really like is the Business of Hype podcast with Jeff Staple. That podcast is amazing. And there's so many things I learned there that I use on a almost daily basis. It's so inspiring, and there's so many great episodes there. So some of my favorite episodes, if you are going to download or sign up, the episode with John C.J. was really inspiring. Woody from Sneaker Freaker magazine. One thing that really stood out to me from that interview with Woody, and I try to like incorporate in everything I do, is he said that he would really impress the people that he presented to because he would teach them something that they don't know about their own brand. So I really try to teach, especially with sneakers, I really try to teach our clients something that they don't know about the brand. So I'm going to dive into the history of the shoe, the culture around the shoe, culture around the audience, and I'm going to do everything I can to try and teach them something that they don't know, because I think that really helps set your ideas apart and shows that you know what you're talking about. Question I got from LinkedIn, from Ria. Thank you for your question. What are the different roles within a marketing department? How do you know which role to go after? I've touched on this, but the entry-level positions are generally under titles like coordinator or assistant coordinator. What are the different roles in a marketing department? Varies on the need and structure of the company, but generally, if I'm going in a hierarchy, it's like coordinator, executive, manager, associate director, director, president. If you look at like Glassdoor, it's a really great resource just to learn about different types of different roles and titles and stuff, because again, if you don't know the jobs exist, you don't know the titles, you can't apply for them. So definitely explore that. Last part of Ria's question, when it comes to working with a client such as Nike or Adidas, where do you begin when it comes to creating content or a campaign? Great question. I'd love to speak to this. So first, it starts with a brief. Say I'm working on a project with Adidas, Adidas will provide us with a brief. And then if I'm leading the strategy and ideation, it is my job to know the brief inside and out and distill it down so that it's more understandable and easily digestible for my team. So I'm gonna research cultural insights that help inform my ideas and solve the problem at hand so that we can ultimately create ideas that ladder up to these objectives. And I think the cultural insights are like the most important. So, you know, I'll look for cultural truths about our audience, competitor, industry, and the best ideas are ones that are rooted in culture. So that's what I always try to do. Next I'll have, and you can Google like agency creative brief template, and that's usually like what it will look like. And then I'll have a brainstorm. And then we'll come together as a team, come up with as many ideas as we can. We'll work to bring out the best ideas from each other. And then once we have a list of ideas, we'll shortlist it. We'll try and like see what has legs, what has opportunities, what can we build on. Then you start to build a concept deck. So the concept deck will have your concepts, how you bring it to life, amplifications, measurements. So making sure that we're showing how we can incorporate proof points to show that we are delivering on our objectives. And in that presentation is where I would refer to that lesson I learned from Woody from that podcast episode, but just trying to incorporate as much as you can to teach the client a little bit something that they might not know about their own brand. Michael, how do you feel about the sneaker industry evolving? I think it's great. I've been having this conversation for a really, really long time. And I think, I mean, we all know that sneakers are, and even resale, a multi-billion-dollar industry. And I think that it's going to continue to grow as consumers and humans shift more towards being like a more of a leisure lifestyle and like that athleisure lifestyle. I don't think it's just a trend. I think people want to be comfortable. I think people want to be able to do multiple things. And like you can do so many things with a pair of sneakers. And I think that's why like so many cultures gravitate towards shoes. And I think like, you know, we can continue to get investments in platforms like StockX, and more platforms are going to pop up like that. And then once those go public and get even bigger and investors see the potential in them, I think the industry is just going to continue to boom. And I think it's really, really cool. Do you mind sharing your LinkedIn? I would like to pick your brain. Absolutely. My name is Katherine Allen. I can send a link to my LinkedIn in the conversation box. But if you just type in Katherine Allen, KATHERINE-ALLEN, you should find it. Do you enjoy working at a larger company that the everyday is working for multiple partners, or would you rather work for a more niche to market? Great question, John. Thank you for sending it. I enjoy working for an agency. It's not a massive agency, but I enjoy working for all these different clients. And eventually, like, my learning is still going all the way up. I think that once it starts to plateau, I'll be ready to shift to more niche market, as you said. Can you speak on as far as designing sneakers? Great question, Michael. So, you know, I never consider myself a sneaker designer. I don't know too much about sneaker design, but I learned a lot in the course, and I've just been more inspired to create. Like, if you go on my Instagram, Katherine Allen too, I just started like creating things like with my sneakers and with like my streetwear, and I've just been more inspired to create. But taking the Sneaker Essentials program definitely teaches you about the facets of the industry, including design. Question from Ian. Do you see the Jordan brand always being the dominant player in sneaker culture, or will it fade as people will start to become less and less familiar with Jordan the player? Fantastic question. I think that Jordan will always be the dominant player in the sneaker culture because he's always found a way to stay relevant. It's not like they put out their best shoes and then it stopped. Like, Jordan is always culturally relevant. And I think that, you know, we're all watching The Last Dance. Shout out Bulls, shout out Jordan. But things like that make him even more relevant. And I think that he'll always be a dominant player because his shoes were laid the groundwork for sneaker culture today. And I don't think we can move forward without like always acknowledging our past. So yes, I think that Jordan will always be very, very dominant. Do you use LinkedIn Premium during your job search? I did a trial once. Honestly, it's like $90 a month, I think. It's just so expensive. I think it might be helpful during a job search, maybe just to try it. I would do your trial. I'm not able to speak to that because I don't have a LinkedIn Premium account. Maybe it would be more helpful as I look towards my next step. But I definitely know people who have a LinkedIn Premium account. So if you want to message me after the fact, I can speak to them and give you maybe their take on it. So many questions. I'm trying to get all of them. LinkedIn offers free trials. Yes, they do. So you should do your free trial. The Last Dance will open up Jordan brand to a whole new generation. Absolutely, Norberto. I think that that's kind of why he did it. You know, I heard that it was during LeBron championship parade that he was like, man, like I got to release this because I have to let the youth know who taught who, you know? So I think it'll, like, I knew a lot about Jordan before, but after watching it, I learned so much that I just have so much more respect for him. And I think other people say the same. Kevin, what are your top 3 favorite sneakers right now? This is always changing, but my favorite right now, Air Force Ones, so I can just throw them on and I'm comfortable. Adidas Ultra Boost, they're the most comfortable sneaker. I can work out in them, I can run in them, I can walk in them, and they look cool. I think they're a classic. Looking over at my sneaker wall. Oh, and my Wave Runners, my Yeezys. Those are super comfortable, and I can fit my insoles in them. My orthotics. I think they're a great shoe. Can you please say your Insta again? It's Katherine Allen 2, KATHERINE ALLEN 2. Since we're at the hour, I'm going to talk about how you can win this. So again, thank you guys everyone for joining. Keep chatting for everyone who can stick around. But if you head to my Instagram at Katherine Allen 2, give me a follow. Make sure you're following at Yellowbrick Sneakers. It's at yellowbrick.sneakers. Leave a comment on my most recent Instagram post with your favorite sneaker at the moment. And then I'll do a draw tomorrow just to get these out to you so you can buy some sneakers. Thank you for answering my questions. You're most welcome. Can you type the books here in the podcast? I can do that. Yellowbrick will be sending a replay, so if you missed anything, you can tune in there. What advice for someone who wants to switch industries? Just make sure that you're doing your research and so that you understand the industry. You want to see if it's something you want to be a part of. But the number one thing, just reach out to people who work in that industry and ask them like targeted questions so that they can help inform you and teach you about what you want to know so that you can see if it's a good fit for you. I want to quickly make sure I'm getting the questions that people sent me on LinkedIn. Someone had asked me about tips for he's applying to a job at Nike and he wants tips on his for writing his cover letter and his resume. I just make sure that you're making it custom, you know, that you're not copy and pasting things and just copy and pasting a company or job title in there because it's really obvious to recruiters. Quite frankly, I can't remember if I already talked about this. I'm dealing with a concussion. So if I have a little bit of short-term memory and I'm repeating myself, I do apologize. But basically, you just want to make sure that your cover letter is as unique as possible. You want to make sure that it's obvious that you have put in the research and put in the effort and the time towards your application. I've also heard that Nike has like a tracking system for sorting through, and I think a lot of big companies do this for sorting through job applications. So the way that, based on your research, that you can like get through that is by ensuring that you're including some of the key messaging from the job application in your resume and cover letter. So just look for those keywords and integrate them into your application. See if you can reach out to anyone on LinkedIn. Not everyone's going to respond, but just see if you can reach out and someone can give you some tips based on the team. And so you can see the needs of the team. And then when you can see the needs of the team, you can see where you can add value. So that would be my tip for you. If you want to send it over to me, happy to review it for you and give you some of my thoughts. Sorry, trying to get through all these questions. I just started a clothing line. What advice can you give me? Anonymous attendee. First, share the name of your brand and like send me like some of your clothes. I totally give you some like tips. Not that I'm much of a designer, but I like to create so I can give you my opinion. What advice can you give me? Find a brand story that's compelling and understand your audience. If you understand your audience, you'll understand what they want. If you have a compelling brand story, people are more inclined to buy into your brand. That's my opinion. Would you agree that Nike / Jordan, Adidas, Puma, and New Balance are the best lifestyle shoes? Maybe. I think so many brands have great shoes that are underrated because of the big three, big four. But I don't know. you can explore so many different brands. There's so much value in different sneaker brands. But those are definitely the best lifestyle shoes, in my opinion. At least the ones that I know. I'm like looking at my sneaker collection for some inspo of how to respond. But I think you probably covered it with those brands. Jordan 1s, yes, those are my favorite silhouette, at least my favorite Jordan silhouette. What was one of the things you got from completing this course that you feel is the most impactful in landing the job that you have? So I already had the job that I had before I took this course, but it has taught me a lot, and I do think that it will help me on my next step, whatever that looks like, because there's just so much that has been helpful, and not even just like the course material, which has been amazing, and I've learned so much. Who wouldn't want to study sneakers? I remember when I saw the ad for it, I was like, I have to take this. It's a no-brainer because it's just interesting to me. But the most impactful thing is the people that I've got to meet through it, and the community that I've been a part of. Like, man, I wouldn't be able to do this webinar if Yellowbrick hadn't given me the opportunity, brought me on as an ambassador. So really appreciate the opportunity, and I really appreciate the people that I've gotten to know through the course. We really have a really strong and great community. Sneaker Freaker, The Ultimate Sneaker Guide is another good book as well. I know I don't have it, but I need to get that book. Please repeat the first book name. First book name is Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. It is his memoir. Phil Knight is the founder of Nike. You want to read that book because I promise you it is worth it. What is the name of the podcast? Business of Hype podcast. You can find it on like Apple Podcast. It's with Jeff Staple. There's so many fantastic interviews in there that I've learned so much from. And like, honestly, everything that I do, even when I'm listening to it, I'm like, what am I going to speak to Jeff Staple about on my Hype Beast radio interview one day? So it's just great motivation. Did you by any chance watch The Last Dance last night and see the part about what caused Michael Jordan to choose Nike over Adidas and Converse? I haven't watched the episode yet because, corny as it is, I like to watch on MJ Mondays. So I'm going to watch that tonight. But I didn't see the part that caused Michael to choose Nike over Adidas or Converse. I vaguely remember reading a story about that, but I'm not going to front like I know that story right now. Ben Baller, one has gems on gems. Agree, really great episode for that podcast. But yeah, Out of the Box, The Rise of Sneaker Culture is a good book. I actually have that book somewhere on my desk. I intend to read that one as well. Really, really great book. Shout out David for reading Shoe Dog right now. Heather, Negotiate Like a Girl by Amy Trask. Thank you for all these book recommendations. Send them over to me. I want to read them too. Appreciate all your recommendations, and like DM them to me or something. I want to read them all as well. Can you type them out? I'll post on my story. How about that? After this, I'll post my book recommendations. I'll post my podcast recommendations and specific episodes. And yeah, I'll make sure that you guys can get access to that. Mamba Mentality, baby. Yes, sir. What's your IG? Katherine Allen too. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to cover in here before I continue to go through your questions. Again, thank you guys so much for joining. Still 219 of you in this chat, which is amazing. Like, really appreciate you guys taking the time to hear what I have to say, and I hope that this was helpful for you. If you ever have any questions at any time, feel free to message me. Like, I'll always take the time to answer people because I know how it feels on the other side. I remember like reaching out to people that I'd looked up to on Instagram, just like questions about just questions about the industry and about them, and being left on red by like very famous people, but people who like left me on red. So I would never do that to someone. So yeah. Thinking of pitching an idea for my own sneaker company. Any tips? Like I said to the anonymous person, make sure that you are that you have a very clear brand story, because otherwise, like, you have to decide and determine like what separates you from every other brand, right? So determine that brand story, make it authentic, and I think that might help. Thinking of pitching an idea for my own sneaker company. Any tips? Yeah, I don't know. I don't have much detail on what your sneaker company is, Gregory, but if you want to send it to me after the fact, I'm happy to give you my thoughts. How do you get the gift card? Go to my Instagram, Katherine2. Make sure to give me a follow. Follow at yellowbrick.sneakers. Comment on my most recent Instagram post with your favorite shoe at the moment. And I will pick 2 people to give these to as a thank you for your time today. Do you see shoe companies using augmented reality in the future? Great question. So a lot of brands are like trying to get into VR and AR, and I mean, a lot of it is like played out, but what I've seen, some really cool applications of augmented reality are like where you can like hold your camera up, and then you see like over an image or like over a shoe box, and you can see like a rendering of the shoe. Like those are really, really cool. And I think that more and more brands are going to find, to answer your question, yes, I see companies using this more in the future once they figure out how to best use it, because like there's so many like flops with VR. And I think that once brands understand how best to use it, I think that we're going to see more brands using it. New Balance has been doing work. Facts. I honestly, like, I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't own a pair of New Balances until not too long ago, and I just got a couple. They're so comfortable, and like, I don't know about you guys, but I have bad feet, so they're just like a super comfortable shoe. Shout out to New Balance. What are you doing with the concussion? I am doing my best to recover from it, and it's going a lot better. Thank you for asking. I work at Nike currently. So cool. I want to talk to you. Questions are asked and tell us about a time format. Be specific in detail. Storytelling. I work at Nike currently. Questions are asked and tell us about a time. Oh, yes, what you're saying. They'll ask you a question like, tell us about a time when. So you want to make sure that you're very specific and detailed in your answer. So tell us about a time when you made a mistake and what you did to solve it. Classic question. Think about how you ask and what Ashley is saying. Thank you so much for the tip and sharing your knowledge with everyone. Be as specific and detailed as you can. How often do you work with people that didn't go to college? Truthfully, in the industry that I work at, most people are college graduates. What do you think is the best path for a sneaker customizer? Good question. Get on Instagram, start posting your designs, start interacting with other accounts, and eventually if people like what you're creating, people will follow and get onto you. I follow so many like cool customization pages. And another thing that I wanted to mention is like find people who you find inspiration from and just follow everyone. I think there's like this conception that like you have to have your ratios low, you know, like good ratios. Follow anyone who you can find inspiration from. You want to just go to my following, like follow a bunch of people in there that inspire. You'll see people who inspire me, and you might be able to get some inspiration as well. So just like follow as many accounts as you can, get to know people. And yeah, with Kanye's recent $1 billion net worth announcement, do you think rappers, athletes will try to divert from collaboration and have PEDs to owning their designs out as Kanye did? Great question. Kanye was Kanye, so it was kind of like obviously if you have like equity, you can like have your own sneaker brand, but collaboration is the name of the game. You know, like Nike, Jordan started out as a collaboration. It's a collaboration with Nike and Jordan. And like some of the greatest endorsement deals and greatest sneakers in history came from collaborations and partnerships. So I think that's never going to go away. Converse Chuck Taylor, one of the originals, that was a collab. Adidas Stan Smith, literally every iconic shoe in history, don't at me, started with a collaboration. So I don't see collaborations going anywhere. I think we're seeing so many collaborations. I think we're seeing maybe too many collaborations, but I think that there's a way to do it authentically. So yes, let's give her a standing ovation. Thank you, appreciate it. I'm a college student. This is from Adler. I'm a college student making custom sneakers right now as a side job, but I've worked for people in Travis Scott's management. That's dope. Could this help me one day getting a job in the design or creative departments of a sneaker brand? Absolutely. Any experience that you have, you can gas up and show how it would add value to where you're going. So say that you want to speak to the value that you being able to do customs for Travis Scott's management, the value that would provide on a sneaker design team. Well, you can speak about how you have a great network of people, and you know how to listen to what people want and deliver a product that meets those expectations. There's just so many things that you can get from that. Send me a message after if you want, and I can go deeper into that for you, or with you, because I think that that would be a really great thing to speak about, and you could definitely get a job through that. Reebok should bring back the pumps. I agree. Remember I told the story about my my favorite, like how I would get lots of like clout in gym class because I had dope sneakers. I remember I had a pair of Reebok pumps, and you could like pump them up on the side. They were pink and white, and everyone was like in awe. So yeah, pumps are iconic. Shout out to Reebok. How did you get into the sneaker industry? Well, I work at an agency and we have sneaker clients, so that's how I got myself into the sneaker industry, through agencies. So definitely recommend you explore agencies that represent sneaker clients. Remember Patrick Ewing shoes? Absolutely. I don't own a pair, but they're dope. They're classics. Opened up Cole Haan to a whole new audience from Mario. Absolutely. That's an amazing example there with Nike and Cole Haan. What can you speak on about the sneaker industry in terms of sports science and sports physiology? Are there career paths in this field? I'm sure there are career paths in this field. I unfortunately cannot speak to it though, but if you want to send me a message, I can do some research for you. SB Pigeon, of course, that was iconic. Jeff Staple, that basically, that was like the first like real sneaker lineup, and everything went crazy from there. It really exposed New York to like sneaker culture, or the mainstream to like New York sneaker culture. So iconic. Opinion on the new Travis Scotts. I think they are so dope, and I hate that I love them so much because I can't get a pair. If you can get a pair and you can plug me, please do. But I love them. I think they're so cool, and I think that I hate that how hyped they are because I can't get the shoe, but I think they're hyped for a reason. You know, people really love the shoe. Do you guys have any other collaborations that you really like recently? Drop them in the box. Love to hear about them. When applying for jobs, from Constantinos, thank you for your question. When applying for jobs, do you apply for a specific industry in which you feel comfortable with your skills and want to work in, or do you go with a wider approach to maximize your chances of landing a position? Good question. I would say go as specific as possible, in my opinion, because if you cast a wide net, you might think it will increase your chances, but you're casting a wide net of jobs that you're probably not a good fit for. Like, I would focus your efforts on things that you are a good fit for and you're most interested in. Travis Scott or Kanye West? Kanye West all day. I went all the way to Ottawa just to see Kanye West at Blues Fest one time, and I've seen him live several times. Kanye's my favorite artist of all time. Is sustainability in fashion and footwear a real concern or just a trend? Fantastic question. It is not just a trend, it is a real concern. Sustainability is crucial, and that's why brands like Adidas are doing such a great job in like paving the way for sustainable fashion and the circular fashion industry. You know, global warming and like the climate change is a real issue, and there's so much waste that comes from fashion that creating sustainable fashion and the world shifting towards being more circular can literally make such a huge difference on the climate that I don't think it is just a trend. It's a true concern, and there's so much to learn about it. I'm actually doing a lot to learn about it right now. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. What do you think? What's next? This definitely shifted everyone's perspective. I'm not sure what that means. Sorry. I think you missed my question about NCCP credit, Catherine. I apologize for missing your question. Can you send it to me again, maybe? Reebok questions were iconic. I agree. One of my favorite shoes are my Reebok questions. Do you see brands like Li Ning emerging more in the US market? Great question. You know, you see brands like Li Ning, Q4, and like other brands that I think we'll continue to see more sneaker brands in the US market. They just have to learn and understand how to market in a way that is like culturally relevant and authentic to this US audience. Because I mean, some of the designs aren't as crazy, to be quite honest, as some of the other brands. But I mean, I've seen like Li Ning on Essence. So if that's not a telling sign that perhaps like North America is like getting more into these brands, and I don't know what is. thoughts on Big Baller Brand. So I honestly, Big Baller Brand is kind of like faded for me, but I love Big Baller Brand. I had a Big Baller Brand hoodie. Really, what the reason why I respect Big Baller Brand is because rather than signing with one of the big three right off the bat, LeVar Ball wanted to create his own brand for his sons, which I think is just so cool. So that's why I respect them for attempting to do that. Sustainability is where we need to focus for real. Facts, Jamal. That early 2000s era retro is at Reebok, some retro heat. I agree, Lindsay. Stussy Nike Air Zoom Cage 2. I love those. I slept on them, and if anyone can hook me up with a pair, I love those shoes so much. They're like perfectly in my aesthetic. I love them. I think they're so cool. I think they're really pretty. How do you think COVID-19 will affect the sneaker and sports industries? Great question. COVID-19 has affected the sports industry so much. As you know, sports has stopped. So obviously that gives an agency like mine that's focused on events, like no events, no like events around sports. But I think what it's going to show us is moving forward, I think everything will be different. I think that it shows us the potential for connections that we have with digital. Like the fact that I'm on this webinar right now, 178 of you, we're having a conversation, and like, I hope for you it's impactful. For me it is. Like, I think we see the potential of digital much more than we did before. So I think that a lot of people are going to realize the opportunities that exist through digital and things that don't necessarily need to be done in person. So we can transcend borders in ways that we never had before. And I think that will happen with sports, and I think that'll happen with sneakers. Yeah. Opinion on Tyler, Creator, and Converse collabs. I think those shoes are really, really cool. I love the design of them. I love the colors. I love the aesthetics. I think they're really cool. I don't own any, but I really like them. Golf playing. What did you think of the Nike ID initiative? I thought it was a great idea from Jason. I agree. I mean, growing up, I'd literally sit in English class and sit on Nike ID and like make customs. And I think it really picks on that like cultural insight that people love to make their shoes different. You know, I remember reading in a book that like so many kids would have the same shoes. So the way that like customization really came to be was that everyone wanted to make their shoes a little bit different, so they looked different from everyone else. So Nike ID really picks up on that cultural insight, and I think the best ideas are ones that pick up on a cultural insight. So I think that's amazing. I think that's why it works so well. I'm so happy that sustainability is being pushed through this time. I agree, it's so important. I myself didn't understand the breadth of the issue until I took the time to do some more research. So I really do recognize how important it is. And I think when more and more people understand the severity of the issue, we'll realize how important it is. Fear of God versus Yeezy. I have so many Yeezys, and they are, I want to boost, not so many Yeezys. I like 4 or 5, but they're my favorite. They're so comfortable. They look dope. Always supported Kanye. So yeah. What's your favorite pair of shoes that you own? My favorite pair of shoes that I own are the Nike Air Max 90 Independence Days, the red ones, because those are the most valuable shoes I own. And not only that, but I love an all red shoe, and the fact that I own them, I'm pretty excited about. Are they dropping a white Spirion? I think those ones are like a cream color. I actually saw an all white yesterday. So yes, they are dropping one. I don't know how much they are. Pop-up shops versus retail. Great question. The pop-up trend, like I like it, but the problem is I can't actually like attend any of them because the lines are so long and there's too many people and they get shut down. So I don't know. I like pop-up shops, but there needs to be a better way for consumers to actually, the people who want to be a part and break through the resellers. I might be late, but what advice do you have on marketing your own shoe brand? Excuse me, giving influencers free pairs to promote versus building an organic following. Well, influencer marketing is definitely like the way of the future. It's just the way it is. It's $1 billion. It's growing to be $1 billion industry. We do a lot of influencer marketing through our agency because it's just a way to connect with people. I hate saying like influencers, I'd rather say like creators, because when I'm looking for like creators to partner with, I'm not necessarily looking for the people who have like 1 million followers, but I'm looking for the people who are part of the culture, who genuinely have a love for shoes, have a love for the brand. But they're a great way to get your name out there and get your product onto the feet of your future customers. So I think that's essential. We'll def connect after this class. I hope you do. Happy to do so. With sites like StockX, do you think shoe brands will start doing their own trading sites for shoe collectors? That's a great question, and I don't know. I've heard like different brands say that they don't really, like reading different articles and stuff, that brands don't really want to tread in those waters. Because think about it, the brands control the resale markets. You know, if they were to increase the demand, increase the supply, the resale market would crash. But then it's the whole supply and demand and hype, and it's just, I think it's a really complicated issue, and I don't think that they would ever. I'm not sure about reselling, but it's an interesting thought. What was Blue Ribbon Sports? You quizzing me? That's the original Nike. I feel like Jordan collection isn't is hottest it's been. Yeah, Jordans are fire. Do you think there's a chance for creators with about 1,000 followers to become a brand ambassador? So let me clarify. By brand ambassador, I mean the people that like work directly with the brands to help with their marketing campaigns. But like 1,000 followers, do you want to, if you mean like being representative of a brand, like an influencer or creator? Absolutely. Like, I don't have that many followers. I have a couple thousand, but like brands have reached out to me before. And I think it's just because they like what I post, they like my vibe. And me personally, like at the agency I work at, when I'm like sourcing influencers and creators to like help elevate our campaigns, I'm not only looking for people with a ton of followers. I look for the people who I like what they stand for. I like their vibe, I like their aesthetic, and they have an engaged following. So if you have, because a lot of the time, like I can speak to one specific example where we had 2 influencers. One had 300,000 followers, and one had like 500, and the one with 500 followers had a higher engagement rate than the one with 300,000. So value doesn't necessarily come from followers, to answer your question, Naya. Do you have advice for self-made clothing brands and what kinds of brands they should buy in bulk, not Gildan? Randall. I'm not sure because I've never had to look into it myself, but I'm not sure. Sorry, I can't answer that question. I'll look into it for you though. I'm happy to do so. I'm not sure what the best prices are to buy in, or the best places to go to buy things in bulk. Maybe like Alibaba. Actually, I do know a lot of people who use like Alibaba, but I don't know if you're thinking about sustainable fashion and stuff, like maybe you can shop local or buy like from a local supplier. Thank you for sharing some insights and knowledge. You're most welcome. I thank you for your time. Can LinkedIn be used to enter jobs? Yes, you can apply via LinkedIn, but follow the instructions on the application because, yeah, that's what you should do. Otherwise, you're not following instructions. Okay, so we're coming up on just about an hour and a half. So I think maybe I'll answer a few more questions and then we'll call it. But again, thank you guys so much for joining this chat. This was so fun. I was really nervous to do it, but you guys have all been super supportive and engaged, so it made it very easy. So thank you. And let me start. If we're just starting the class, what's the class going to be like? Well, the great thing about the Sneaker Essentials program is that you can take it at your own pace. So so it doesn't matter what time of the year you start. If you're curious to sign up, you click the link on my bio on Instagram and learn more. Thank you for speaking with us. You're most welcome. Was this your first webinar? Yes, it was. Hopefully I can do some more. Yeah, we're about an hour and a half, so I'm going to call it. But thank you so much, and I really appreciate your time. I didn't get to go through all the questions. You guys sent through so many, which was amazing. Again, appreciate it so much. But if you want to send me a message on Instagram, it's Katherine Allen 2. I'm happy to get to them. I'll always respond to people. If you want to send me a message on LinkedIn, I'll message you there. You can message me there as well. Remember, go to my Instagram and leave a comment on the most recent my most recent pick. Make sure you're following me and following Yellowbrick.sneakers, and we'll give you away, you can win a gift card. So thank you so much. Over and out. Appreciate it.